Good morning, Bruins fans, and happy Thanksgiving to our friends in the northern half of the continent up there with our good buddy Dom. Dom, good morning. I know we just did a show last night, but we've got matinee Bruins hockey today. Are you excited for this pre-game episode of What's Brewing?
Yes, first of all, happy Thanksgiving to my fellow Canadians and happy Indigenous People Day to those south of the border. Yeah, I'm excited. Anytime the Bruins are on, I'm excited. So uh, we'll see what today brings.
We will definitely have to see what today brings. Last night was a fun show reviewing the latest for the prospects, but I did go back and I pulled the questions in the comments that were related for today's show so we can touch base on them. But I know that you had somewhere specific that you wanted to start in relation to math and the cap. Real quick, before we do this, I got to say, shout out to a good friend of mine, Chris Davis, does the show, Drop the Mitts Hockey. Good morning to you as well, Chris, and huge congratulations. He has actually not put out a show in a while because he's been busy. He got married on Friday. So anybody else in the comments, if you could congratulate Chris, great guy, really knows his hockey stuff, and I can't wait for him to start producing and being available again for hockey content now that the nuptials are I believe they're going on their honeymoon soon as well, but with that in the mirror soon, he should be getting back to some of his really awesome interviews. So definitely check him out. Chris, congrats.
Yeah, congratulations, Chris. A word of advice, being that you're a newlywed, is try to involve your wife in your shows, either as a producer, an editor, or something, because trust me, it'll give you a lot more free time to put on a show. Um, if she's involved, she wants to see your work out there, and it's like, who knows, you might get out of doing the dishes once or twice because you've got a podcast to put on.
Something like that. And hopefully he's awake at this hour, so hopefully the hangover is not too bad for you, Chris. But Dom, you wanted to kick us off with a little bit of math. You've noticed some errors out there when it comes to cap calculations. If you don't mind giving us a little bit of background on where the error has been occurring and then what the implications entail.
Yeah. So if you include my own site where I break down the cap, there's 4 cap calculations by different sites, and all of them with a different answer. So I reached out to the National Hockey League this morning, and it turns out that my calculation was correct. Most fans don't give a shit about it, but there are those that want to know exactly where the Bruins stand and, what it means further on down the season. So I reached out to Puckpedia, told them about it, and they have since updated their site to the correct number. I reached out to Cap Wages, who responded to me basically with we don't do a daily cap calculation. And I didn't respond back to them because here's the thing. If you don't do a daily cap calculation, then your cap numbers are incorrect because the cap is calculated daily. And their final response to me was, well, if I remember correctly, Cap Friendly used to charge for that information on their website. Well, that's irrelevant. You still have to calculate the cap daily to get a cap number. So if you can put it up on screen real quick, Chris, I'll explain it to those that do follow. The whole issue is with Ian Mitchell. Now, he started on season opening injured reserve. I talked about this on last week's show. So because he was injured during camp, He couldn't be sent down to Providence. So his cap hit from last year of $266,406, I believe it was, counted towards the Bruins cap as season opening injured reserve. And that's what Puckpedia was showing as of today, and they corrected it. What I told Puckpedia was, but they sent him down to Providence on Saturday. He actually played for the Bruins or the Providence Bruins Saturday night. So that cap comes off, and cap only counts for the 4 days he was on the roster, which is $5,500. That makes a big difference in the deadline space calculation. So what I do on Dom.Hockey is every day at 5 o'clock, teams have to submit their rosters to the NHL. And I try to update it every day at 5 o'clock. Like Chris and I keep telling you over and over, we try to provide the most accurate information available, and no bias, no dishonesty. We report it like it is. So just want to clear that out of the way and explain why you were seeing a difference between 4 different sites.
And which one to believe. Because it's a huge difference, as you mentioned. You're talking now they have built, if nothing changes between now and the trade deadline, just shy of $2 million to work with, which is a significant difference from where they were before, which would have been like $400 and something thousand.
Right.
So that's a huge difference. And obviously the decision making going forward is going to factor into all that too. We touched on it a little bit last night. Tyler Johnson is still with the team. There's a chance that he still gets a contract with them. You still got Tuffy, Jones, Koepke, Brazeau, Geeky. They're all kind of figuring out their spots, and that's something that I definitely want to touch on today. But to carry over, one of last night's really good questions came from Tens Shots. He said, given how bad the Beast power play has been, how concerned are you about it, and what changes could potentially be made on the power play? So that was a really good question that we didn't get to last night because we were focusing on the prospects. I wanted to bring that up because, again, we got the game coming up against the Panthers. We're going to want to use that power play as a weapon today with no Tkachuk in the lineup and no Barkov in the lineup. We can take advantage on the power play. So what are they going to have to do to do that?
I want Matthew Poitras on the power play.
I knew you were going to say that.
To me, that's number one. I've just seen this guy play enough hockey that on the half wall, he is dangerous. He is absolutely dangerous. He played with a player in Guelph. I forget his first name. Last name was Bowen. If anybody remembers, let me know. He would play the Guelph power play spot like David Pastrnak does for the Bruins. Excellent shot. Not David Pastrnak quality but Poitras's ability to get the puck to him through bodies, through sticks, was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, I'm not saying you have to put him on the first unit. I would definitely put him on the second unit. That's my number one start. Number two, I would give it more time. It's just, 3 games into the season is enough for me to begin to worry. It's still better than Florida's power play. Think about that.
Yeah, right. You do have some fans agreeing with you here. Davis jumps in, says 100% Poitras on the power play. And then Craig jumps in, 51 on the half wall, please, 63 down low.
We've talked about that before, 63 down low.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, it's still a young season. They're still, all kind of getting used to each other. Having Elias Lindholm now on that power play has changed a few things a little bit. Um, let's see. Bruins Meat says that he just saw on the Boston Bruins news today, are the Bruins going after Kuzmenko? I haven't heard anything. Dom, have you heard anything on
No.
that? I feel like it's a little early in the season for them to be trying to make a gigantic move like that and shift things around for any team, really. I mean, Edmonton is still winless, if I last correct,
Yeah.
and they've lost to some expectedly bad teams that are doing all right. They've lost to Chicago, they've lost to Anaheim. Like everybody's
Calgary.
Calgary, Colorado's still getting pummeled in Colorado. Alexander Gorgie has been pulled twice for them. So everybody's still kind of fishing things out and figuring it all out. I would be shocked if someone like Kuzmenko was already on the block at the beginning of the season. I would be shocked.
I think the plan. I think the plan is to get Tyler Johnson under contract. I really do. Unfortunately, they can only add, as of today, $411,000 in cap. A lot depends on Max Jones. Um, I would not be surprised to see him go to Providence on a conditioning stint, and then they'll make a decision on Tufty and Jones to open up cap space. I think right now Cole Kepke is safe. I think our Mark Kastelik is safe. Um,
Yeah,
you
I would
know,
go as far as to say Justin Brazeau is safe. And I was very critical of him
yeah.
coming into the season, but he has started very strong, and I don't want to deter that. And I think, I think he's solid on the third line. My guess is their goal would be to see what they have if they can put Matthew Poitras on the second line right wing and Tyler Johnson on that third line center.
Doesn't matter where. I think that's their ultimate goal is to get him under contract. A lot's going to depend on Max Jones' health right now.
I was just gonna say, what do you think? What are you hearing is the latest on Jones, because he missed a lot of the preseason, he was injured, and he just hasn't looked good at all. The
Well,
couple times he's been out there.
we don't know how much the injury is affecting him, and we know that lack of a training camp and exhibition games is going to affect him. So he right now can go down on a conditioning stint. It won't clear the cap space, uh, so he could go down for 3 games. I think Providence only has 2 games next week, so maybe 2 weeks, and then they'll have to make a decision on Tufty or Jones.
Yeah. So you mentioned that if he goes down on just a conditioning stint, it doesn't do anything to the cap situation.
No, but
Okay.
After he's cleared, then they'll have to make a decision, and then either Tufty or Jones will go down to Providence, and then they'll have the cap space to sign Johnson.
Yeah, and I'm wondering so if they were to waive Jones, his entire cap hit would go down with him if he clears.
Yes.
So that may end up being Tufty is playing overall very well, but I agree with you. I think Kemke is the one that has a spot that's safe right now.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little buzzing in my headphones. I think I have a bad cable right now.
That's the fly that crawled into your ear when you were asleep.
Probably, yeah. As long as it's not coming out on your end, that's fine.
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay, good. It must just be my headphone cable here. Bruins me as a question. My real question is: Jones better than Kemke when he is firing on all cylinders?
When he's firing on all cylinders, I would say yes. But he still has to show it.
Yeah, I feel like he should be. but if he's not there yet, whether it's health related or conditioning related or whatever, he's just not there right now. So given the choice right now, that's where they're at. Matrix asks if Poitras continues to play second right wing. Any thoughts on Kastelik on third line center? That's if Johnson isn't signed yet. We've talked about this before, how much they like to roll guys out in pairs. You've always had Marchand Coyle since Bergeron retired, Pastrnak and Zacha. It seems like Freddie and Poitras have been a pair for a while at this point. I really like the pair of Beecher-Kastelik.
Yeah, me too. And I think Kastelik is really rubbing off on Beecher. I really think he's having a huge impact on Beecher's game, and I don't want to break them up. The issue is, if you move Poitras to second line right wing, then Geekie goes down to the third line. So there's no room to move Kastelik up.
Right. And I think that's the next question, too, is obviously Geekie's right now playing out of place in that second line right wing spot. Mm-hmm. Is he doing so much at a deficient level that it's hurting them significantly, or are we just seeing a lineup that's still working on getting used to all the new pieces, all the new blender, basically?
I haven't looked at the advanced stats, but I would have to say they're not good for that trio. Based on what my eyes are telling me.
So, a question: where does Morgan Geekie fit in now and going forward?
I would still like Trent Frederick, Matt Poitras, and Morgan Geekie. I think that can be a dominant third line.
I'd love to see it, but then again, now we're following into that domino effect of Justin Brazeau. Where does he go? Does he drop to the fourth line? Do you use him as a 13th forward?
I think you rotate the four guys in on the fourth line: Beecher, Kastelik, Koepke, and Brazeau.
And you have a 13th and 14th forward?
Again, it depends on what happens. Well, one of those four will be 13th forward.
Yep.
And then you have to figure out what you're doing with Tufte and Jones. And you still haven't answered the second line right wing because you've got nobody there. Ideally, the best thing that could have happened is Fabian Lysell take the spot. And he didn't.
We're in a universe where that didn't happen. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's what the Bruins' hope was. It's why they kept Johnson around. It's why they talked about Poitras possibly playing the right wing.
I know Kuzmenko was mentioned earlier. Someone yesterday asked about trading for Anthony Mantha. Someone else asked about Alex Tuck. I think we still need to see. And then Bruins Meet here says, would you trade Geekie if it was part of a second line winger? I think right now everybody needs to tie all the trade talk up. Trust me, I love it myself. I do. But not a single team out there is ready to sit there and have a serious conversation about who they might be willing to move. It's not there. When you look at the conference standings, I mean, Carolina, the Islanders, and the Capitals are all at the very bottom, but they've all only played one game. So, you can't rule out anybody on the Carolina Hurricanes as being trade ready because they're out of it when they've only played one game. So,
but to answer the question, yes, you would include
yeah.
The meat of the question is, would you include him in a trade? Yes, everybody is tradable.
Everybody's tradable, absolutely. So it's just a matter of what's the deal look like and who's actually available. I mean, who knows? Maybe Kuzmenko does become available early in the season, but let's cross that bridge when we know for sure that Vancouver or that he's being shopped. Everything is upside down and swings with one win right now.
Yeah.
So again, I love the trade talk as much as the next person. It's just right now it's unrealistic because I mean, Utah Hockey Club is still 3-0. Like again, not a knock on them, and they should be a good team, but if they all of a sudden go 500 over the next 3 games, they drop significantly in the standings. So
I hate trade talk.
I know you do.
Unless there's something legitimately out there, I hate trade talk.
I
Really
know.
do, with a passion.
I know. The good news though is you're Boston's third. We're third place tied with the first place with a 3-way first place tie for 4 points with Toronto, Montreal. So, how scared of the other 2-1 teams are you in our division?
I'm not scared at all. I'm not worried at all. But to realistically count anybody out at this point is a little premature. Um, you just the games are played on the ice for a reason, and you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, who would have thought 2 years ago the Bruins would be setting records all over the place
Yeah, no kidding.
on a historic season?
Remember when we were going into that and people are going, they just got to keep their head above water while McAvoy's out. They got to keep their head above water while Marchand's out and make a late push for the playoffs and hope to get in as a wild card team. You remember those conversations?
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny says, first time to look at standings is American Thanksgiving. Second time is Christmas. So you keep an eye on the standings overall, but I think Matrix has a good time frame here of another 15 to 20 games. Then you have a general idea of kind of where some teams are going to be. It is one of those things where right now it doesn't look good for some teams. Colorado, for instance, but Nashville as well. But their games have been close overall, and they've looked good. So they're just still clicking. It's
just way too early. Nobody's looking to dump anybody right now. It's just as simple as that.
The New Jersey Devils have played the most games of anybody, and they've played 4 games. 4.
Yeah.
Mentions Edmonton last year is a perfect example. First 25 games, they were in the toilet, then played in the Cup final. Yeah, we saw that with St. Louis back in 2019 too. So right now it doesn't mean anything. We'll see where things continue to go. But I do think, like you mentioned, they have their plans. Bruins Mate has a question here. Do you think Freddie might have more offense to give, or is he what he is?
I think he is. I think him and Patra together have looked good, but wait until they really gel and start to connect. Here's the thing. Even if you put Morgan Geekie in the middle of that line, I even tweeted as much the other day that I've been dead against playing Matthew Patra on the wing. But I've changed my tune. I'm ready to do. I know he can do it. He's played it. You go back to his draft year, where his draft plus 1 year, he didn't score as much as he did in his draft year, but the vast majority of his draft year was playing right wing. So he is capable of scoring as a winger, as a centerman. He's looking to set guys up.
Yeah. Johnny says, a second line center coiled third. I don't think that's also.
No, I think you got to give Patra at least half a season on the third line and let him continue to develop and learn the NHL game.
Yeah, I would agree with that idea overall. I know the other day we saw him jump up and play between Zaka and Pasternak. Looked pretty good there too.
I think
Um,
that was just line change on the fly. I don't think it was done intentionally.
it might have been. I didn't hate it though. I didn't hate it, but I mean, again, we're going to see Montgomery use the blender on these lines a lot in the
Hmm.
beginning of the season anyway. I think a lot of people need to also adjust their mindset of what the lines need to look like based off of where Montgomery's coming from. Of I need to win games now because essentially, until there's a new contract in place, he's coaching for his job.
Yep. Whether it's with the Bruins or someplace else.
Right. He's coaching for a contract at the end of the day, whether it's with us or not. And he's going to use the proven guys. He's going to use them with the guys they're proven to play well with. Bruins Meat responds with, even if Poitras becomes your second line center, don't you just move Coyle to wing on that line? I can't tell you how much I despise the idea of Charlie Coyle playing right wing again.
Me too.
I I hate that so much more than I hate the idea of putting Poitras on the right wing.
Yep. Exactly.
Like it just we've tried it, and if there's an injury and you need to double shift people and that sort of thing to get through a game, fine. But under no circumstances am I viewing Charlie Coyle as a right wing anymore.
No.
And he's just
I would despise it almost as much as moving Zaka back to center.
yeah. I would probably agree with that. I like Zaka so much more on the wing.
Hmm.
It's that's not the change. There are certain things that you don't change. Zaka, Pasternak, that pairing, keep them both on the outside wing, done. Leave that alone. Coyle next to Marchand, Coyle in the middle, you don't touch that. Poitras, third line center, don't touch that. Kostelic and Beecher, left and center on the fourth line, don't touch that. Anything else we can discuss, in my opinion. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, again, it remains to be seen what they do when Jones is healthy and they have to decide on Tufte and Jones and whether they bring Tyler Johnson in, because I think that's the plan.
I think they want to bring Johnson in. I wish we disagreed on that. I know a lot of people have been in agreement that Tyler Johnson is, long due for a contract at this point with this club. It's just how are they going to get there? Where does he fit though? When you see them signing Johnson, how do you see this lineup coming to fruition at that point?
I think he fits on the second line right wing.
So then you move Geeky down to
Yep.
Brazeau's spot. Brazeau basically becomes a 13th forward that you cycle in with Beecher, Kostelic, and Kepke.
Well, I don't want to call him the 13th forward. I want to call the four of them the fourth line.
Okay,
It rotates.
that's fair. Would you consider rotating him in with Geeky on the third line right wing?
No. Why?
Because he's already playing there and playing well.
Um,
Brazeau, Poitras, and Frederick don't look terrible together.
no, but I wouldn't say he's looked well.
Okay.
He's done okay. Like nothing screams to me that he deserves that spot over Morgan Geeky. Not at all.
Okay. No, that's fair. I just was wondering if you would consider doing that at all.
No, not at all. I told you my options. The four of them for the fourth line.
And as of right now, if you had to pick between Tufte and Jones, based on what you've seen so far and what you know of how they've already played in their careers, who would you expect to stay on that fourth line?
Well, I haven't seen anything of Jones. You saw what, a period?
Maybe. But he's had a couple seasons out in Anaheim. I don't know
Right.
how much I've seen.
But
didn't really look fantastic out there.
Somebody asked that same question earlier. And it was Jones, but he has to show it. And he hasn't done that in Boston because he hasn't had the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever will. That's the only question. Matrix said, looks like there's an update. Monty says no lineup changes and Swayman gets his third straight start. I love the fact that we have Swayman in for this game. It's nothing against Corpusalo. This is what we expected for the opener.
Yeah,
as far as
I don't think they should be making any lineup changes today. Look, the game against LA wasn't great. It's an improvement over the game over Montreal. They had a lousy first period, as far as I'm concerned. They started to pick it up midway through the second. It was far from a 60-minute effort. What I want to see is I want to see them continue to build, and get to that full 60-minute game. And I'll be honest with you, I don't expect to see it today. A, because it's an afternoon game, and B, because there's still several players on this team that aren't where they should be.
Yeah. Now, I just pulled up the schedule. They don't have back-to-backs for a little while here. So now, after today's game, you have tomorrow off and you go to Colorado. You have a night game there later, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I would assume you stick with Swayman in that one as well.
When's the next game after that?
You then have Thursday, Friday off, and you travel to Utah. So your travel is from Colorado to Utah, which isn't extremely far. And you have 2 days off in between, with 2 days off before you travel to Nashville for Tuesday.
I would give Corpusalo the Utah game, not because I think they're weak. I actually think Utah is playing really, really well. But by then, he's over a week off, had a lot of opportunity to work with Bob Essenza, and review video and talk things out. So that's the game I would give Corpusalo.
That's one I was circling. I really just don't see. I like the 2 days on, 2 days off before, and the 2 days off after. So you give Swayman almost an entire week off before he faces Nashville, and then you come home. You have an alternating schedule for 3 straight, where you go Nashville Tuesday, Dallas Thursday, Toronto Saturday. You want Swayman for those 3 games, and then the following week you have a Tuesday game against the Flyers. So I don't know if you go all 4, but you want him at least for Nashville, Dallas, and Toronto.
Mm-hmm. They'll figure it out. They'll make sure that Swayman gets his rest when it's needed.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that he's the kind of guy that wants to net every game. So you have to keep the reins on him, but I think they will. Joey has a good question here. Any concerns with 73's play so far? Seems like a giveaway machine.
No concerns. I predicted Charlie McAvoy would score 20 goals this season.
I don't see a reason to come off of that either. I think the team overall has been struggling with possession and giveaways. I wouldn't say Charlie McAvoy is their main problem with that so far. Sometimes we like to blame certain players for the bigger issues, the giveaways, the stuff like that. But it's the sequence of events that leads to the giveaway. And when you have a guy like McAvoy, when you have a guy like Carlo, especially as your defensive stalwarts, they stand out on the ice because they do so much. And so when they do give the puck away, it seems to stand out more. So I get where you're coming from, where it seems like stuff like that, but always double check to make sure that it's it's not just how you're feeling, and that the facts back that up.
I don't think I think with McAvoy he's being asked to take more risks because they know they have a safety net back there with Zadorov. That's my opinion. That's the way I see it.
Well, I was going to say it's also getting used to a whole new partner with Zadorov, figuring out where you can.
I don't think it's even that. I think that he's being asked to take the risks. He's being coached to take the risks.
I mean, now they have a coach on the bench, so
Well, no, I mean they openly talked about
they like their guys.
this being a change in their system, more activation from the defense. Like you're not going to ask Andrew Peak to do that. You're not going to ask Brandon Carlo to do that, but you are going to ask Mason Lohrei or Hampus Lindholm or Charlie McAvoy to do that.
Yeah,
And I think that's why they're giving McAvoy the safety net with Zadorov is so that he can do that.
yeah, and Matrix points out when this defensive core figures it out, it's lights out. I think that was something that when underappreciated as to how quick it happened a couple years ago when they set all those records. You know, McAvoy was out. Lindholm knew he had to be that guy for a while, and I think he's still finding his role on the defense as well overall. You know, and they're all getting used to each other still. I mean, Peak, Wotherspoon were half of the year last year with the club overall. Lohrei was up and down. That's a half of your defense, and that doesn't even include Zadorov, who's brand new this year. So, well, your key three guys, Carlo, Lindholm, and McAvoy, they're all used to each other. They're all meshing with four still fairly new overall pieces in new ways.
An argument I saw is that chemistry should be instantaneous. And it's not. Never has been, never will be. You can't expect two guys who have never played together, never practiced together to all of a sudden first time they skate on the ice is have chemistry.
Just
Chemistry is built. It is not an instantaneous thing.
No, absolutely not. You don't just walk up to someone, introduce yourself, and all of a sudden go, now we're best friends.
Well, I do that. I don't know about you, but
you're the lovable Dom Tiano, so of course
that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody.
So you got to warm up to people sometimes.
Or give them the cold shoulder. Remember, controversy sells.
Oh, that's right. This is where I'm supposed to tell you that you tell me to pound sand every day.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else going on. Obviously, that's confirmed the lineup for today. So we know Barkov is out for them. We know Tkachuk is out. Is
Tkachuk out for sure?
Yeah. He's been ruled out. I've seen it multiple places now. Let's see. From Panthers Twitter itself, update from Coach Maurice ahead of today's game. Bobrovsky and net. Tkachuk illness is expected to miss about 1 week. And then obviously Barkov is still out. That's their updates.
Interesting. That scary-itis that he's got?
Must be.
Did you see Trent Frederick's quote yesterday?
Oh,
what was it? I'm paraphrasing here. Maybe after we retire, we will reconcile. But right now, I hate him.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Dude, Frederick is pissed at him for not dropping those gloves.
Yep.
Does that make you feel a little bit better about him taking that penalty?
Yeah. I think that penalty added to Frederick's anger. Look, I will say this. You need to know your opponent, okay? And everybody knows that this is the type of player Matthew Tkachuk is. He did it down in junior. He's done it in the NHL level. And I wasn't surprised by what happened because I've been watching him for several years now. Uh, but you need to know your opponent. And I I think Frederick should have known that Matthew Tkachuk was not going to drop the gloves with him. He'll drop the gloves with David Pasternak, but he's not dropping them with Trent Frederick.
Not at all. Not at all. It's that's just not who he is. So I'm sure some of you just heard that ping. That was a reach out from Chris, and he wanted to thank us for mentioning him and his recent nuptials. So I wanted to just pass that message on to you, Dom. So I know that ping bothers some folks. So I just wanted to let everyone know what's going on and why it's coming in, because I hear it on other people's pods, and when they just try to act like it doesn't happen, I know it can bother me a little bit. So
Yeah.
He's pumped for the game today too. So
Bennett. Got to talk about Bennett.
Oh God, another
this. I think Frederick needs to use that built-up frustration and anger and take it out on Bennett today. It doesn't mean he has to drop the gloves, but get in his face, be physical with him, and let him know he's there. Bennett's not going to drop the gloves and go with him, so he's got to be in control.
Yeah, and Bennett is someone that he can push around and get under the skin of, but like you said, Bennett's not going to go with him until he gets pushed past the point where he can't control himself.
Yeah, and Bennett can fight. He's a pretty decent fighter.
He's also go ahead.
He's not going to drop the gloves with Frederick. So that's where Frederick needs to take that anger and frustration out on.
And they got to watch out and be willing. So they should be familiar with him. AJ Greer in 3 games has 9 pins. He will take dumb penalties. So,
well, one was the fight with Kastelik, right?
I believe so, yes. But still, he takes penalties.
Yeah.
So if you want to try to get in somebody's head too, you can also go after AJ Greer and make him, because stick control is still a little bit of an issue for him. So he'll take some soft stick penalties. He'll get some roughings. Like, they should know this about him. He's another one.
Yeah, they should, but
mentally and
at this point, if they get a penalty, the Bruins should decline it.
Right? That power. But then, how are they going to get the reps to make it better?
I don't know, but I think Kastelik's going to look for a rematch there.
Oh, I would think so. That is going to be interesting. The question is if you're Kastelik, you take this as an opportunity to throw down if it presents itself, or do you try and put them away on the scoreboard and just ultimately use that to your advantage? And last time it was banner night, this time it's not, and we're coming after you.
I think there's a time and a place for it, and Kastelik knows what that time and place is. So, he'll just have to use his smarts about when he goes about it.
Listen, and Bruins Meat says, go challenge Greer and don't drop the gloves. If you're going to bitch about the fact that Tkachuk is doing it, you can't go out and do it yourself.
Right.
That's the number one rule. The people around here got all up in arms about when guys like PK Subban, Matt Tkachuk, when they go after you and then you go after them and they turtle, and it pisses you off so much. You cannot turn around and do that to the other team, because that makes you no better than them.
Right.
You need to be willing to drop the gloves when they drop the gloves, but smart enough to know when they're not going to drop the gloves and to keep him on.
Yeah, I think we'll see a rematch.
We got Court jumping in. So welcome in. We have
Hi, Mr. Court. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, he passes that along. And I agree with Bruin's Meek's comment here. Johnson might be able to help the power play if they sign him. I think that's a huge reason why they want to sign him. He looked really good during the preseason on that power play.
Yeah, I think he made the power play better.
Significantly, in my opinion.
But
Matrix says, honestly, I'd rather see the Bruins play a complete game and kick the Panthers' ass through and through. Absolutely.
But I don't think we're going to see a complete game. I think this team is a couple of weeks away from playing a complete 60-minute game, especially since it's a matinee game.
So here's a question for you. I'm glad you mentioned that. We've seen this team on multiple occasions come out slow. They don't play a full 60-minute effort. I do think some of it is carried over from the preseason where they're more focused on who slots where and how do things look and finding the right position. So there's a little – I'm willing to give a bit of slack here. However, what's the slack given to Jim Montgomery because he still doesn't have a contract?
They're talking, though. So
if they keep slow and they can't give full 60-minute efforts, whether it's a matinee game, home game, road game, night game, whatever, what point do you look at the coach and say he's just not preparing them well enough for the game?
I think it's on the players, though, Chris. It's like we've seen this from the Bruins for years. We saw it. We're seeing it with Montgomery. We saw it with Bruce Cassidy. We saw it with Claude Julien. It takes his team time to get rolling. Why? I'll never know.
Is that an organizational, philosophical thing?
No. How can it be a philosophical thing? It's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the water in Boston. I don't know.
It's the dirty water. Bruins do this every time with their coaches. They very rarely release them until after the season.
That's true.
So what do you need to see from them? If they're talking now about a contract, clearly they're willing to do it before the end of the season if they see something done right. But they don't see it yet. So, they're willing to come out and say they're talking about a contract extension, but they don't have one. And we know that this coach can do the regular season. We've been through that time and time again. Now, I think we all agree that the 23-24 season was a better coaching job overall than the 22-23 season when they had Bergeron and Krejci still. But the record was a little lower. It just was so earth-shattering high the year before. So this being the last of his 3 years, what do you need to see out of him this year? Is it solely based on the playoff success?
Well, my view and what the team thinks are two different things. I've been saying it for 2 years now. I don't give Jim Montgomery an extension until the season is over. And by season, I mean the playoffs.
And is it just about the success in the playoffs for you?
Ultimately, that's what success is what do you do in the playoffs? The regular season doesn't mean anything. Are you out to win the President's Trophy or are you out to win the Stanley Cup?
I mean, most people want the cup.
Right.
I don't know the last player who got inducted because of all their President's trophies. Bruins Meat said a lot of good teams come out of the gate slow. Yeah, and this year a lot of them are coming out of the skate with a giant skid mark. So, I mean, it's We ran through some of them. Edmonton 0-3. Who saw that one coming? Colorado 0-2. Nashville 0-2. Carolina's 0-1. I mean,
it happens every year. Every year. You got the weaker teams with a lot of young players who are playing on adrenaline. And adrenaline, I have talked about this 1,000 times. Adrenaline wears off when you're no longer playing on emotion and adrenaline. You come back to what is expected of you.
Bruins Meat says if they get bumped out second round of the playoffs, do you re-sign Monty?
No. Let me put it to you this way. Is this team on paper better than last year's team? Yes. So why should the Bruins be satisfied with the same result as last season?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It adds on, say, Game 7.
No, same answer.
I don't think the second round is where they're looking to be with this roster. You don't go out and let's face it. The fact of the matter is they've overpaid financially on the contracts for Zadorov and Lindholm. Is it vastly overpaying for Lindholm? No, probably not. Is the contract going to age better because the cap is going up? Yes. But for this season, they are both being paid more than they should be. Why? Because they make the team better than they were last year, especially for a playoff run. Period.
You can't be satisfied. You can't be satisfied with one more game. If it's Game 7, one more game is not going to cut it.
Yep. Bear Force just joining us. We were just talking about Matt Tkachuk being out with what'd you call it?
Scariditis.
Scariditis for a week. So he saw Boston coming back up on the schedule and just immediately started to lose it. He didn't want to have anything to do with Trent Frederick again. So, I mean, it hurts for them. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm glad he's overall healthy. It's not an injury. You don't want to root for injuries, but you know what? If he's going to miss a little bit of time, that's okay. Did you know that the Florida Panthers at 1-2 are currently 7th in the division?
Yeah. Listen, without Barkov and without Tkachuk, the Bruins need to win the hockey game. Simple as that.
Yeah, and what you're seeing from around the rest of the division should give you a little bit of hope too right now. I mean, Toronto is relying on Anthony Stolarz as their starter. They've got Dennis Hildeby as their number 2. You really have to see how that's putting them on shaky ground right away. You mentioned the adrenaline hurdle that a team like Montreal has got to be riding high on that adrenaline right now. Let's see where they are in 2.5 weeks after a few more games. Sabres are already in the basement. You don't have to worry about them right now. Tampa Bay has played 1 game, so there's really not a lot to go off of there. And Detroit and Ottawa are both at the 500 mark after 2 games. So, again, not a lot to go there. Linus Ullmark looked really good in those games for Ottawa, but now he is injured. He's out. They've emergency recalled Mad Sogard. So they're already going through some adversity in Ottawa. Let's see how they navigate that.
Yeah, and Vasilevsky looked good for Tampa, eh?
Oh, yeah. I told you he's going to come out with all that hair on fire. So, but Detroit also put opening night starter Ville Husso on waivers.
Yeah.
Because they have some injuries, and his contract should be able to get through. It might just be cap maneuvering to open up a roster spot and all that stuff, but it's still going to send them a message. So Yes, Bruins meat says King of Turtles didn't want any more Freddy gloves in his face. Well, Freddy actually dropped the gloves, so it was just straight up knuckle. Let's see. We got the game coming on in a half an hour, so hopefully we get a few more questions coming in here. But have you seen anything from anybody else in the Atlantic that I know? I was saying that the Bruins, I would expect them to win the division this year.
No, it's just too early, Chris. It's just way too early.
All I'm saying is I'm not jumping off that train yet.
It's just way too early. Way too early.
I can't get you to say they're going to win the division, can I?
No, you'll never get me to say they'll win the division.
Until they mathematically already have.
Yeah.
So, what? Let's take a look here. I had their schedule up at one point. So we got Panthers today, obviously. Let's see. Yeah, Bruins meat says sucks for Ottawa. Olmark was keeping them in it. He was playing great for them, honestly, and they were rallying around him. The team doesn't look terrible. It's just now that they have to go and turn to Anton Forsberg and Mads Sogard. Let's see what they look like, because again, this goes back to what you're talking about with adrenaline. They got a brand new shiny toy Linus Ullmark goaltender, and all is great in the world. Well, all that adrenaline wore off at the snap of a finger. Back to, all right, well, it's Anton Forsberg again. We know what he can do, and it's Mads Sogard in goal backing him up. Let's see what we got here. Well, let's see how they do. Is it still a new dawn of day in Ottawa because they still have Ullmark? Or is it right back to same old, same old? Also,
I think they'll slip.
I think they will too. Bear Force also points out Oilers have looked terrible so far. I mean, McDavid's not at the top of the league in scoring. What's going on?
Yeah. Again, it's too early. Like Matrix said earlier, where were they a year ago?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
You know.
Although I will say, if someone wants to try and get a little bit of a jump start on, or a little late start, we'll call it, on a throwdown for potential MVP, Jack Eichel's leading the league with 7 points right now for Vegas, and Vegas is still looking good. So he's someone who could potentially carry that torch for most of the season. Just saying.
Anything's possible. I'm not counting McDavid out of anything. I'm not counting Edmonton.
Party's over.
Chuck Knobloch is an excellent coach. I see people on Twitter already calling for him to be fired. Chuck Knobloch is an excellent coach, and he will get this team back to where they should be in no time.
Yeah, I don't see that being the problem. Like I said, Kevin's here though, so party's winding down very clearly. He is, as usual, casually late. Probably was eating. So
Yeah.
Bruins meat says without Mark.
Don't mention food today.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's see.
Kevin, look. People won't believe it. Everybody says like I'm an OHL guy through and through and don't care about anything else. There's my Sioux Greyhounds from the OHL jersey. There's my Omaha Lancers from the USHL. And I've got NCAA jerseys hanging around here. So, yeah, I'm not just an OHL guy.
No, that's just where you can get in for free.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick look here down the schedule the rest of this week. I know we talked a little bit about it. We've got Colorado and Utah. What would you consider to be a successful week this week for this team?
Counting today?
Counting today.
2-1.
Do you care which 2 wins they get?
No.
Do they have to both be in regulation?
No.
Okay. I mean, with the way Colorado's playing, I would love to see them pump them with goals. I feel like
The thing is, you're not just looking for wins, you're looking for them building their game.
right. And I feel like I feel like they should be able to go 3-0 right now. I agree with you that 2-1 would be kind of the level of expectation, but I would not put a 3-0 week past them here. Again,
Well, look, let me explain it this way. Would I rather see them go 3-0 with Swayman bailing them out all 3 games, or would I rather see them go 2-1 and continue to improve their game and get to a 60-minute full effort? I'll take the latter 100 times out of 100.
damn it, why do we have to agree so much?
Like, to me, 2-1 and continuing to build their game, I call that a success. 3-0 where Swayman has to bail them out every game, that's a failure. Yeah, they got 3 wins, but how much can you rely on your goaltending to bail you out every game?
I mean, if you ask a team like Winnipeg, apparently a lot. Let's see. Bruins Meat has actually a really good question. Because of Poitras, do the Bruins potentially draft more outside of college hockey?
Let me just bring something up here.
I feel like they draft out of college hockey frequently with their actual draft picks, that is.
Well, no, they don't. They very rarely draft anybody out of college.
That's what I mean.
Like Christian Kostadinsky was drafted out of Sweden, and they wanted him to go to college. The same goes with Don Melis, Casper Nason. I believe that's it. Loki Johansson was drafted out of Sweden, and they wanted him in the CHL. So a lot of times they draft a player, and they get that player to where they feel is best for his development. I spoke about this many times with Fabian Lysell, drafted out of Sweden, and they got him in with the Vancouver Giants in the Western Hockey League. His agent is affiliated with the Giants, so it was an easy move. The Bruins don't force it, but they work with these teams to get them where the Bruins want them. Dean Letourneau, as Court mentioned, they knew he was going to college, but he's in college a year early. He was supposed to go to the USHL.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last player the Bruins drafted out of the NCAA. I really can't.
Let me see if I might be able to find that, actually. I don't know if they have for quite a while, actually.
Yeah, it is
a
long time.
Drafted right out of the NCAA, to be honest with you. I'm all the way back in 2011.
I think the last one they wanted to was Torrey Krug, and they passed on him and then got him as a free agent.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't see anybody drafted out of the NCAA, and I'm all the way back to 05.
McAvoy. Court's got it there.
Oh, that's right. Wait, what year? He was... Oh, that's why, because they have it listed as Hockey East, not the NCAA.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I overlooked it. Good call, Court. But even still, okay, so we found one.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the Bruins uh, get getting them into a program that they want them to go to.
Yeah, a lot of USHL, WHL, Sweden. Yeah, he's the only one I'm finding. OHL. That was two. Yeah. So
And don't be surprised, depending on how the NCAA votes in their upcoming vote. I think CHL players won't be eligible for the NCAA until next year. Don't be surprised if the Bruins draft somebody, let's say, from the London Knights in the OHL and get them to go to BU or BC.
yeah, as Court said, but if you look at their prospects, they happen to either be from Boston or play college hockey near Boston. They don't draft a lot of kids because they trade their picks. Absolutely true. Michael has a really good question, and hopefully I can answer it, but I'm going to have you back me up on it first. His question is, do draft prospects already have agents? Now, if I'm not mistaken, NCAA players cannot have an agent because that considers them quote unquote professional, and therefore they would lose their NCAA status, at least as it's currently constituted. So they have advisors, quote unquote,
Family advisors.
advisors. Whereas someone who's playing in the OHL, they can have an agent, correct?
Correct.
So that might all change, especially now with the NCAA getting involved with the NIL money and the crossover with the CHL. That might all be changing, but at least
It will change. It will change.
I'm sure. I didn't want to be as definitive about it, but yes, it will change. I'm sure. That's just not where they're at right now. I'm looking forward to that.
These family advisors all work for agents anyway, so they're represented. Yes,
You said the quiet part out loud, Dom. Come on.
it's there are ways around it, and yeah, I guarantee you they're represented.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. Let's see. Court says saying college players don't have an agent is something the NCAA says to make them feel better, but is full of shit.
But he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
It's exactly it.
It's the technicality so they can sleep at night and say, well.
One thing we haven't talked about since the news came out a few weeks ago, Chris, is the top prospects game next month. So for draft junkies out there, it's guaranteed that it's going to be basically a CHL All-Star team based off of draft eligible players and the U.S. National Development team in the two games. Taking place in London and Oshawa next month.
Translation, no one from the NCAA.
Right.
James Higgins will not be there.
Right. Unless they change it again, but that's technically he can't be there right now because he's playing against CHL players who are considered professional.
Bruins Meat says, I just had flashbacks of the movie Blue Chips. Are you familiar with the movie?
No, so you're gonna have to tell me.
I've never even heard of it. So Bruins Meat, give us a little more info on that movie. We'll have to do some digging there. I also still have that name written down. Someone was talking about. We were talking about how Bruins are going to have to draft goaltending soon, and I wrote it down on my notes from yesterday's show. That guy Ivankovic. Still got to look him up.
Mississauga Steelheads of the Ontario Hockey League. I believe that's who he's talking about.
Any insight to him already?
Oh, He'll be the first goalie off the board, in my opinion. I don't see the Bruins in a position to draft him.
I mean, they might have a first round pick still. We'll see. As Court points out, they trade those.
Yeah.
Are you are you still okay with them trading this year's first round pick?
Depends on two things: where I feel the team is, and what I feel their realistic chances of winning are. If I'm not comfortable with either of those, I'm not trading the pick.
Uh, exactly. I agree with that 100%. Oh, it was an NBA movie, I guess.
That's why I don't know about it.
Yeah. Not to say it wasn't a good movie, just haven't heard of it. Michael asks, how do teams feel about other teams when they claim one of their players off waivers?
That's a good question. I
That's
love that question.
It's a great one.
Um, in some cases, they're happy because they're just trying to dump a contract or open up a roster spot and really have no feelings towards the player. On the other hand, you know, um, especially at the beginning of the season when you're trying to sneak a player, we'll use Brandon Bussey as an example. Had Bussey been claimed, I'm sure the Bruins would have been disappointed and unhappy in that. So there's mixed feelings. It depends on the player and the situation the team is in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people looked at the situation Anaheim was in as an example. John Gibson gets that emergency appendectomy. People knew they
Yeah,
were going to be looking for another goaltender. So Buffalo puts James Reimer on waivers because they want to go with Levi and Luukkonen, and Reimer gets claimed. Nobody was surprised by that. Was Buffalo thrilled by it? Probably not. They would have liked to have had that veteran goaltender to rely on as a third guy. But now Detroit has Ville Husso on the waiver wire. I'm sure if I'm Anaheim, I'm thrilled I grabbed Reimer over Husso right
yeah,
now. So it's all about timing and
yeah.
perspective and all that stuff too. So you pulled up Bear Force's comment. Will the top prospects game be all Canada versus all American players, or is it based on any player in CHL versus USHL, no matter where they're from?
My understanding is this. Um, the email I got, it's not a Canada versus USA thing. It's the CHL versus the uh, under 18 national development team. So whoever's on that US NDTP team right now is who's going to be on the at the game because they're all draft eligible versus the best 20 CHL players, um, no matter what country they are from. And my understanding is it'll be the NHL general managers picking the CHL team because that's who they want to see in the game.
And then Bruins meet chimes in. College was paying money for players with cars and buying a mother a house, etc. Again, a lot of that mattered more when it came to the big sports of football and stuff like that. But that's part of where lawsuits come about. So I'm just glad I'm not involved in any of those decisions.
The Boston Bruins had Bobby Orr's parents' house painted. He wasn't a college player.
No. Let's see. So the lines in warm up have been confirmed by Scott McLaughlin of WEEI, Zaka Lindholm Pasternak, Marchand Coyle Geeky, Frederick Poitras Brazeau, Beecher Kostelik Kepke, Zadorov with McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Loride Peak, and Swayman in the starting net. So
No
as
surprise.
As mentioned, no changes to the lineup. Court has also again reiterated that Barkov and Kachuk are out for today. Bearforce says that should be a better format for the prospects game. Is that going to be on Flow Hockey, Dom? Do we know?
It'll be on NHL Network in the States and I believe TSN in Canada.
Awesome.
Now, here's why I don't like the format. And I'll tell you, because I'm a draft junkie. So you had the U.S. top prospects game, which took place in Buffalo last year, I believe, where you had two teams, 40 players. You had the CHL top prospects game, which had two teams, 40 players. So as a draft junkie, you got to watch 80 players, okay, over two games, and get a sense of where these players are at. Under this format, it's cut in half. You're only getting to see 40 players, and you're not getting to see the best that are available in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, at least they're televising the game, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I guess it has its pros and its cons. I think I think this is a money grab, basically. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's pitting Canada versus the U.S. and they're trying to make money off of it. I bet if you asked the NHL GMs, they who don't get to go out and scout these players on a regular basis would like the old format where they can have eyes on 80 different guys.
Yeah. Bearforce says, could they do 2 games where each side has 4 players with a different 20 each game?
They could, but there's actually two games. Okay. And the winner is here's how the format works. If you win game one, okay, I think they're doing a 3-2-1 point system. If you win game one and you lose game two and you're tied, okay, game two goes into overtime to determine the winner of the series.
Okay. And it's not
Right.
aggregate goals, though.
Right.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be fun hockey to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait till they start doing something like that includes the NCAA guys. Hopefully, they're able to once the whole transition CHL NCAA thing.
Yeah.
So,
I plan on being at both games. So,
well, we've got about 10 minutes left till puck drop here. We've covered a lot, believe it or not. And I think I don't think I have anything else. So, do you have any final thoughts before we let people get ready for tonight's game?
yeah, I have something I want to touch on because I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday.
And then I'll pull up Michael's question. He's had a really good question about Don Sweeney and how.
Yeah, Sweeney attends a lot of Providence games, as does Evan Gold. Somebody was talking to me yesterday, or I was having this conversation about the Bruins power play and why the Bruins couldn't have hired Mark Savard to coach the power play. I don't want to get into the whole why Savard isn't in Boston situation. There are reasons. If Mark Savard wants to talk about them, then he can talk about them. But the question was posed to me like this: do you not find it odd that they have a defensive forward coaching the power play, meaning Chris Kelly? Yeah, I do find it odd. Bruce Cassidy coached the power play in Boston, and the Bruins had a good power play. And Bruce Cassidy was an offensive defenseman when he played the game. So just because Chris Kelly is or was a defensive player, it didn't mean he didn't pick up things through his career from Claude Julien or Joe Sacco or Bruce Cassidy and other coaches that he's played with or played for. So, no, I don't find it odd. Is he the right choice? I can't say because the power play last year started out good and faded. Um, this year has not looked good so far. So is it a coaching thing or is it a player thing or is it an execution thing? I don't know. It's too early to tell, but they don't have anybody else to coach it right now that I would call was an offensive player like Mark Savard was that could coach his power play. It was a
Yeah.
really deep conversation, and I mean, I could go on for half an hour talking about it.
I also want to position it with a different mindset too. Chris Kelly played a lot on the penalty kill.
Hmm.
So who's going to know what a penalty kill is going to do to try to stop a power play more than someone who was on a penalty kill for a lot of their career? You're trying to beat a penalty kill.
And the Bruins used that argument as an excuse as to why he was coaching the power play.
And to your point, does it make him the right coach? That remains to be seen. But the thing is you could bring Mark Savard in and he could, just because he was good at running a power play, doesn't mean he's good at coaching one. Like, he could be the right guy and he may be doing a great job for Toronto. Like, it all remains to be seen. But some players can do and can't coach a lick of what they do. They just don't have a knack for the coach part of it.
Although
Some.
Mark Savard, though,
I'm
like
not.
he showed it in St. Louis. He showed it with the Windsor Spitfires in the OHL. And look, when Savard was coaching in Windsor and the OHL trade deadline uh, was coming up, two things I wanted to see. Brett Harrison and Matt Poitras traded to Windsor. We got Harrison. We didn't get Poitras because I think that Mark Savard would have worked wonders with those two on the PP. And with Harrison, he did. So could he help a guy out like Poitras? Yeah, he could. But like I said, we've seen evidence with Savard in St. Louis. We saw it in Windsor. We're going to see it in Calgary. Um, was he a potential answer? I will say this, using Mark Savard's own words as to whether he wanted the job or not. And I quote, I'm not going to ask again, unquote.
Yeah, I remember when you made that comment.
So
10 shots. I hope you saw earlier that I brought your comment up from yesterday about the power play that was at the beginning of the episode. But you did chime in again here. Would it be a possibility that they let go of Chris Kelly?
I don't think so.
I don't either. They might shift roles when it comes to who's doing the power play. If it's something that he sits there and he goes, I need help with this or something to that degree. But I don't see them outright letting him go. They still got to give the power play some time. And I know that was something that 10 Shots had asked about yesterday, how concerned we are and that sort of thing. So check us out at the beginning of the episode. This will be out as a pod tomorrow, so you can always go back and re-listen, which I highly encourage. That way there you can bring more questions for the next episode. With that in mind, we got puck drop in just a handful of minutes here. Dom, I'm going to ask this one more time as I usually do, since I am all out of final thought, ideas, thoughts, questions, etc. Do you have anything left before we let fans go to prep for puck drop?
Yeah, for those watching on YouTube, please give us a like and even subscribe if you like the show. Does wonders for us and would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, go Bees.
Yep, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we do have the Patreon out there as well. So check out the pod description. The link is in there. Membership starting for as little as $1.99 US. And you can be entered to win some great content, great giveaways and stuff like that. So go check that out. It is patreon.com/what'sbrewing. Again, link will be in the pod description on all your major platforms. Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the fun things in the YouTube. I'll make sure it's in that description as well. Appreciate it. Bear Force, subscribed and liked already. And definitely don't forget to subscribe to the little bell icon so you know whenever we plan on going live, you get notified. And with that, puck drop is in just a handful of minutes. So go Bees.